So we're exploring with Katya what's needed for collaboration to pay off when you're running a festival, because often there are so many conflicting priorities. Some collaborations may be difficult to start or maintain, or they may take a while to blossom into a mutually beneficial relationship. So Katya, you collaborate with business improvement areas and local arts councils to access space like parks and other resources that the festival needs. But these partners can have very different structures and mandates than yours. So can you tell us, what do you feel are the key ingredients in starting and maintaining collaborations with partners? And how do you get to a point where you click and trust can flourish?
The main key for collaborations for us is, to have a conversation, and that just comes from being an artist first, and so I just want to sort of share this experience of how we started working with visual artists. It was during the pandemic, and it was, when we were not allowed to actually kind of do what the festival does, which is bring people together through social dance and through dance workshops. And so, we thought about, how do we make this work? Because we wanted to continue being in person. And so we thought, okay, why don't we create some kind of a dance map, or figure out how we put something into place that allows people to move through it independently. And so that's when we thought about, okay, well, why don't we collaborate with some visual artists and see what comes out of it. So we started by just having a conversation with two visual artists that Kate actually knew. So I got to meet these amazing visual artists that have an interest in public art. And so then we, ended up bringing 4 dance artists and 4 visual artists together. And that collaboration, was very, very active. Like the visual artists danced with us, and then the dance artists worked directly with the visual artists to design a path. And so at the end, we had these 4 different movement patterns that suddenly became visual in the space. And so then right away, we saw people moving differently through the space. Kids were drawn to it and moving through it, and then the parents followed, and it was such a meaningful process, especially during the pandemic, because it brought sort of many different partners together in a safe way, right? For us as art, it was important for us to support the artists that we promised to support. We just had to do it in a different way. And so it ended up bringing the neighborhood together, which was also kind of, if we think of the neighborhood as a partner, it was a need for people to be together in a safe way in a public space. And for us as creative producers, it was like a totally new world, because we learned a lot from working with visual artists, and then we could sort of, for something like dance that's so ephemeral, it kind of happens and it's so meaningful, but then it sort of poof, it goes away. But this left like an actual visual trace in the park, and it became an integral part of the festival for years to come. It also allowed us, because we were working with visual artists, it also allowed us to form a partnership with Lakeshore Arts, which is an organization that is already in the neighborhood that is committed to supporting the neighborhood through the arts. And so we were able to partner with them to create a new mural the next year. And then in turn, right, it was because whenever it's a partnership that works, that's a long term, you're both learning and you're transforming through this relationship. So for example, then just this year we did a workshop that community members were a part of. It was to redesign a new mural for the space, including the people who actually live there. So visual artist Natalie Verybeat led a community workshop, and together they designed a new mural that then sort of everybody collectively painted. And so now the mural reflects images from the neighborhood and the diversity of people who live in the neighborhood. Like mimico is that's a word for pigeon, and it should have a word for pigeon. So, and there's lots of pigeons around, and we always, when we do the land acknowledgement, we refer to them, and they're part of the mural now. So, like these little details that make the experience, even more layered and more meaningful every year. And it's something that the neighborhood, like the process of making that mural with the community members, people learn more about their neighborhood and the history of the neighborhood through that process. So, and in this particular case, our partnership with Lakeshore Arts, it took us a while to make the contact with the organization, just because, we were a new festival, and, sometimes people are busy, organizations are busy, everybody's short-staffed. So, first year it just didn't happen, even though we tried to make a contact. And then next year, because suddenly we were working with visual artists, it was a more natural, more organic relationship. And then now it's sort of, it's a welcome partnership, and and it's about long-term, and it just takes time also to figure out how to have this conversation, this key ingredient, how do we check in every year, to see, what the needs are. Depending on the partnership, it's also about kind of this continued active listening, because, it's not the same with each partnership. It's just kind of very different needs. To give another example, we have a partnership with Mimico Business Association, and it's not necessarily an artistic partnership. So we had to figure out how do we have this conversation where sometimes it seems like we're speaking different languages. So so then, we started talking about, okay, well, how many people would we bring to the space that then can come and have a coffee in this place or lunch in this other place, right? So that it brings traffic to the businesses in the neighborhood. And then how does this mural that we have created suddenly transforms the space, and the videographer that we work with, because he suddenly, we see this bird's eye view of the mural, which you cannot necessarily see from just walking by, right? And so he used a drone footage to really help us see the beauty of this mural. And so then I know that then the BIA worked with similar imagery to create a new video for the neighborhood. And it looks just so vibrant and inviting, and, and people want to come to the space. I remember, somebody came and they said, oh, we came all the way from the east side. I didn't even know that Mimico existed until this experience.
That communication piece really is key, right? To building that sense of trust. And I mean, if there's understanding and really what a relationship could be. And I mean, certainly, when we're trying to respond to specific needs of a community or a partner, it really does help to create that sense of safety and belonging. If you do have those open kind of communications, right, you can really demonstrate what that impact could be, as you've done so well visually. And I mean, it's so natural for us to be wary or unsure when starting a collaboration. So I agree with you that establishing early on and revisiting those channels for exchange in a variety of different ways, as you've done, is really key.